U.S. President Donald Trump and Chinese President Xi Jinping wrapped up their summit, which Trump says included great trade deals, while Xi claimed the two countries established a new bilateral relationship. Korea's benchmark KOSPI topped the 8,000 mark during intraday trading on Friday, but fell sharply after, pushing the bourse operator to pull out a sell-side sidecar. Two-day candidate registration for Korea's June 3rd local elections are wrapped up on Friday, with the election authorities set to assign ballot numbers based on parties' parliamentary representation ahead of official ballot printing on May 18th. U.S. President Donald Trump has wrapped up his high-stakes visit to Beijing, departing the Chinese capital after 3 days of intensive diplomacy and a symbolic outreach. While the two projected warm ties and hinted at broader economic cooperation, the summit ended without a joint statement or any major breakthrough agreements. Our Kim Do-yeon starts us off.
The summit between U.S. President Donald Trump and Chinese President Xi Jinping ended on Friday with a symbolic gesture at the walled-off Songnanhai complex. The two had lunch and tea at the special venue, and President Xi offered a rare glimpse into the private imperial gardens, a gesture typically reserved for China's closest allies.
Yes, I've asked the president and other from other countries, presidents and prime ministers, does he bring them?
这个地方我们首先以前外事活动不太多，后来有外事活动以后极少。
Both leaders characterized the three-day visit as a fundamental shift in bilateral ties. President Trump praised the personal rapport he has built with his counterpart over the last decade, suggesting their chemistry has allowed them to bypass traditional diplomatic gridlock.
And we've settled a lot of different problems that other people wouldn't have been able to settle. And the relationship is a very strong one.
So far, we have established a new bilateral relationship, or rather a constructive relationship of strategic stability. This could be described as a milestone visit.
On the economic front, President Trump indicated that he is returning to Washington with significant progress toward fantastic trade deals. In an interview with Fox News, Trump described President Xi as all business, noting a pragmatic commitment to economic coordination. The U.S. leader said China has committed to major purchases of American goods, including a large order of Boeing aircraft and a significant increase in imports of U.S. agricultural products, specifically soybeans, while gradually opening parts of its economy to U.S. businesses. To manage these ongoing economic ties, the two sides have agreed to establish a new Board of Trade to handle disputes without immediately resorting to new tariffs. However, no joint statement or declaration was adopted by the two leaders for this trip. The two will meet again this year, as on Thursday, Trump invited Xi to the U.S. in September. Kim Do-yeon, Arirang News.
Staying in Beijing, Presidents Trump and Xi appear to have found a common ground on Iran, signaling shared opposition to Tehran acquiring nuclear weapons and a mutual desire to bring the ongoing conflict to an end. Jo Young-eun reports.
As the U.S.-China summit concluded on Friday, Presidents Donald Trump and Xi Jinping appeared to find common ground on Iran, agreeing that Tehran must not obtain a nuclear weapon and that the Strait of Hormuz should be kept open amid escalating regional conflict. President Trump said both leaders share similar views on ending the conflict involving Iran and preventing further instability in the Middle East.
We did discuss Iran. We feel very similar to Iran. We want that to end. We don't want them to have a nuclear weapon. We want the straits open.
President Trump later told Fox News that Xi also stated China would not provide military equipment to Iran, a move Trump described as a big statement. Earlier, U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio said Washington hoped Beijing would play a more active diplomatic role in resolving the crisis because it relies heavily on energy shipments passing through the Strait of Hormuz. China's foreign ministry called again on Friday for a ceasefire and urged that the Strait of Hormuz be reopened as soon as possible. The issue is particularly significant for China, with nearly half of its crude oil imports passing through the strategic waterway. Still, many in Beijing reportedly view the Iran crisis as outside China's direct responsibility, raising questions over how far Xi is willing to cooperate with Washington on the issue. Meanwhile, tensions around the strait continue to escalate as one ship anchored near the United Arab Emirates was seized and taken toward Iran on Thursday, while another cargo vessel near Oman sank following an attack. Although no group immediately claimed responsibility, the incidents came as Iranian officials reiterated Tehran's authority over the waterway and asserted its right to seize oil tankers linked to the United States. 조영은, 아리랑 뉴스.
Debris from the unidentified aerial vehicle that struck a Korean-operated vessel near the Strait of Hormuz has arrived here in Seoul for a detailed forensic analysis. The Foreign Ministry said Friday that the fragments were transported by air on Thursday, following consultations with the United Arab Emirates authorities. Now, the debris includes engine parts collected from the scene of the attack last week on HMM Namu, moored in waters off the UAE. A government investigation team examined the wreckage in Dubai before it was stored at the South Korean embassy in the UAE. Now, officials say specialized agencies in Seoul will now carry out a detailed analysis to help determine the type of the UAV used in the strike. The Defense Ministry is reportedly planning to make public South Korea's blueprint for nuclear-powered submarines as early as the end of this month. According to sources, the roadmap will share the submarine's defensive nature in compliance with the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, as well as the overall timeline. The move is seen as an effort to speed up related negotiations regarding the program amid slow progress in follow-up talks with the United States. Korea's stock market hit a historic milestone today as the KOSPI briefly topped the 8,000 mark for the first time ever, before wild volatility sent the benchmark plunging more than 6%. Kim Jun-hong reports.
Korea's benchmark KOSPI passed above the 8,000 mark for the first time ever during trading on Friday. The index closed at 7,493.18, down 6.12% from the previous session. The move above 8,000 came roughly 10 minutes after the opening bell, just 7 trading days after first breaking through the 7,000 mark. Yet sharp swings dominated trading throughout the day. The index seesawed between gains and losses before falling as much as 7% from the previous session during trading, triggering a sell-side sidecar at one point. Unlike the previous rally led by the country's chip giants, Friday's gains were powered by a wider group of market heavyweights. Samsung Electronics and SK Hynix both ended lower, while shares of LG Electronics and Hyundai Motor moved higher. All of the gainers are part of the broader AI value chain, including sectors tied to memory chips, energy, and semiconductor materials.
One of Friday's key themes was growing attention to LG Group's shift toward AI-focused businesses, which helped lift related stocks. More broadly, Korea's market continues to see strong rallies in companies tied to the wider AI ecosystem.
During Friday's session, foreign investors continue to take profits from major chip makers. Given the outsized influence those semiconductor heavyweights have on the benchmark index, the broader market was also dragged lower by the selling pressure. With the record-breaking rally largely driven by the country's chip giants riding the semiconductor supercycle, overheating concerns and the risk of heightened volatility continue to fuel caution in the market.
Volatility in Korea's stock market has surged sharply. Historically, the gap between intraday highs and lows averaged around 1.4%, but recent swings have widened to 3 to 4%. That marks the third highest level since the global financial crisis and the pandemic.
Brokerages at home and abroad are raising their KOSPI targets, with some even talking about the index reaching 10,000. But with market volatility, attention is now on whether the rally will cool off or move higher. Kim Jun-hong, 아리랑 뉴스.
Korea's exports are posting record gains on a booming semiconductor demand, but lingering global tensions and weak consumer sentiment continue to weigh on the economy. Lee Eun-jin has the details.
South Korea's export prices surged in April, with the export price index marking 187.40, up 7.1% from the previous month. This, according to data from the Bank of Korea on Friday, marks the 10th consecutive month of growth, led by the manufacturing sector, including computer, electronic, and optical equipment, and largely attributed to the sharp increase in semiconductor prices. Central bank data also shows import prices fell 2.3% on month in April, marking the first on-month drop in 10 months. South Korea relies heavily on energy imports. The decline came as the price of Dubai crude, South Korea's benchmark, fell 17.8% on month to $105.07 per barrel, affected by the U.S. and Iran agreeing to a ceasefire on April 7th. However, prolonged geopolitical tensions in the region continue to pose upward risks for future raw material supplies. Prices of raw materials fell 9.7% in April from a month earlier, while intermediate goods rose 2.1%. Despite these uncertainties, the country's net barter terms of trade index improved, jumping 14.3% on year. The South Korean economy continues its recovery trend on the back of strong semiconductor exports, and domestic consumption has maintained its recovery. However, as the Middle East conflict remains ongoing, consumer sentiment has weakened, while rising global oil prices are intensifying financial burdens on the people. Presiding over a meeting of economy-related ministers Friday morning, Finance Minister Koo Yoon-chul said that as the war drags on, its impact is becoming evident.
Even amidst the impact of the war in the Middle East, our economy is demonstrating the resilience of a Republic of Korea that grows stronger in times of crisis, with exports, the current account balance, and stock market indices reaching all-time highs. However, it is also true that as the war prolongs and the burden on the real economy, including consumer prices and employment, is becoming visible alongside the impact on our industries.
The government will closely monitor changes in domestic and international situations to minimize the economic hardships faced by the people, as it also works to promptly implement supportive measures through a supplementary budget. Lee Eun-jin, Arirang News.
Japan's Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi will take a two-day trip to South Korea next week for a summit with President HMM. According to the Blue House on Friday, they will sit down on May 19th in Lee's hometown of Andong, which will involve an expanded session, joint press conference, and dinner. Seoul's top office says the leaders will discuss bilateral ties, as well as cooperation on the economy and society. Now, also on the agenda is the situation in the Middle East. And there is interest in whether they discuss possible cooperation on energy supply and critical minerals. The two leaders last met in Takaichi's hometown of Nara Prefecture back in January. Also today, President Lee Jae-myung had a go at rice planting at a village in Daegu's Gunigun County. As a rice planting season gets underway here in Korea, the president operated a rice transplanter and observed a drone spraying pesticides over the fields. He later shared a meal of noodles and traditional Korean rice wine makgeolli with local residents. President Lee wished the farmers a successful harvest this year and expressed his gratitude for their hard work, saying he was able to see firsthand the tremendous effort they put in on the ground. The two-day official candidate registration for the local elections ended today at 6 p.m. with last-minute variables, including candidate mergers appearing between the ruling Democratic Party and the Progressive Party in the city of Ulsan. Our correspondent An Sung-jin tells us more.
Ahead of the June 3rd local elections, official candidate registration has wrapped up, setting the stage for intensified campaigning in several key battlegrounds across the country. The National Election Commission accepted registrations over 2 days, May 14th and 15th, and officials are expected to finalize ballot numbers for candidates based on parliamentary representation before official ballot printing on the 18th. Candidate disclosures including assets, criminal records, and tax payments will be made public through the NEC election information system. Attention has centered on the southeastern city of Ulsan, where the ruling Democratic Party and the Progressive Party reached a last-minute agreement to unify their candidacies in a bid to challenge their conservative rival. Under the agreement, the two parties will select a single candidate for the mayor of Ulsan through public opinion polling. They also agreed to coordinate candidacies in 5 district-level county chief races, as some candidates withdraw in favor of their allies, while others enter primary-style races to determine a unified nominee. This merger is expected to reshape the mayoral race in a traditional conservative region, as recent opinion polls show strong support for conservative candidates. The cooperation extends beyond Ulsan. The two parties also agreed to field a single candidate in the mayoral race for Yeonjaegu district in the southern port city of Busan. Similar consolidation deals have already emerged in several races nationwide, including district heads in Seoul, Daejeon, and Gyeongsangnam-do province. Political parties across the spectrum are expected to continue negotiations ahead of 2 critical deadlines. Candidates who withdraw by May 17th will have withdrawn, marked beside their names on Election Day ballots, while those stepping down by the 28th, 1 day before early voting, will be identified as withdrawn on early voting ballots. The local elections are to elect 16 mayors and provincial governors, 227 county chiefs, more than 3,900 local council members, and 16 education superintendents, alongside 14 parliamentary seats through by-elections. An Sung-jin, Arirang News.
As Seoul looks to deepen its strategic partnerships, as emphasized by the foreign minister on Thursday, a senior diplomat spoke with Arirang to highlight how pragmatic diplomacy is unfolding in practice. Our Oh Soo-young has more.
People and partnerships are at the heart of Seoul's expanding diplomatic reach. Deputy Minister for Public Diplomacy Im Sang-woo is playing an active role in deepening ties across the global south while strengthening support for Koreans abroad. Since taking office last December, Kenya and Madagascar were among his first overseas trips, ahead of a ministerial meeting involving 54 African countries next month.
This is also in the context of our diplomacy that focuses more on strengthening our relationship with the Global South, and of course Africa is an integral part of the Global South.
Global South outreach featured in President Lee Jae-myung's summit last month, with Prime Minister Narendra Modi marking the first Korean state visit to India in 8 years. One crucial agreement supports Korean SMEs investing in India, an initiative Im personally worked on during his posting in New Delhi. His diplomacy went beyond official meetings, from creating viral videos to volunteering as a guide at India's National Museum, a first for a foreign diplomat. His outreach now informs his role overseeing Korea's, the Foreign Ministry's public diplomacy platform, supported by 20 Koreans and 20 foreign nationals representing 18 countries.
We are committed to running this channel not as just a platform to showcase Korean culture, but really a channel where genuine dialogue takes place with our friends from all over the world.
But as Korea's global reach expands, so does the responsibility of protecting some 7 million overseas nationals amid risks from armed conflict and natural disasters to transnational crime.
Our guiding principle has been to provide Koreans security, protection to a level that they would expect to have at home. So in that way, Koreans, wherever they are in the world, they can feel secure, they can feel safe, having this assurance that the Korean government will be there to provide assistance if needed.
Im last week travelled to Thailand, Cambodia and Vietnam, where Seoul is working with local authorities to tackle online scam operations involving Koreans.
The most critical tool that we can use to combat transnational crime is real-time intelligence. And there has to be a real-time sharing of intelligence amongst the law enforcement authorities. And there has to be swift and decisive action based on those real-time intelligence.
From serving in the Democratic Republic of Congo and as Korea's first resident ambassador to Madagascar, Im has built relationships from the ground up and responded to consular crises in times of conflict and pandemic. Oh Soo-young, Arirang News.
As many rural cities outside the capital region struggle with a population decline, the southern city of Miryang is betting on culture content and government-backed programs to revitalize the area, with Korea's culture minister visiting this week to assess those efforts firsthand. Our culture correspondent Park Kwon-woo was there.
Students sing and dance passionately during a performance inspired by Miryang, a traditional folk song unique to the region. In Miryang, a southeastern city grappling with population decline, these young students are also taking part in efforts to promote their hometown through local cultural performances. This has been a big help as the city's been designated as a culture city, part of a governmental program aimed at revitalizing such regions through local cultural content.
I feel like I should have visited much earlier. Local culture seems to be growing stronger on the foundations we've worked on. We'll continue listening to what support is needed and do our best moving forward.
During a two-day visit to the city, Culture Minister Choi Young also met with local residents to hear firsthand about the challenges they face. Miryang has been one of the pioneer cities to apply the government-backed half-cost travel program, and officials say they've witnessed a boost in visitor numbers. But local merchants are asking for more support.
I hope the program can be promoted earlier and backed with a larger budget so more people can benefit from it. If the half-price travel program becomes more active, it will greatly help revitalize the regional economy.
Amid the shrinking population, people relocating to the countryside and setting up their own businesses is also becoming more noticeable in the city. But some say support programs are sometimes unreachable.
I'm in my 40s, and when it comes to support programs or opportunities to participate, I've become too old to qualify. In agriculture, people are considered young enough to earn support until 50, so I hope there can be broader support for people like us as well.
It's inspiring to see the younger generation's efforts to rediscover strengths in places once weakened. And these efforts deserve continued support. More successful cases need to emerge so that others will also be inspired to follow the path.
With more support from the Culture Ministry and continued efforts to further develop the region's cultural content, the area is now looking to attract more visitors and boost regional growth. Park Kwon-woo, Arirang News, Miryang.
Imagine carving thousands of tiny windows and realistic human faces with sand, with master sand sculptors from around the globe participating. This year's Haeundae Sand Festival theme explores the rich history of Korea's largest port city, Busan. Our Jung Hae-rim takes us there.
Here in the port city of Busan, Haeundae Beach has been transformed into a massive outdoor gallery for the 21st annual Sand Festival. This year, the shores are playing host to a journey through Busan's history by sand, featuring 17 monumental works that bridge the city's past with its ambitious future. 11 world-class artists from 5 countries have spent weeks sculpting everything from Busan's historic spots to its modern identity as a hub for cinema and its love for baseball.
We wanted to capture the entire panoramic view of Busan within a single work. We used the natural sand right here from Haeundae Beach. We compressed the sand using molds and then carved from the very top down to the bottom. Other sculptors were actually shocked by the level of detail, specifically how we hand-carved every single window in the buildings by hand.
This piece portrays Busan during the Korean War, where it served as a temporary capital and embraced countless refugees. Pieces like this represent the city's history through sand, who truly witnessed it all. For the thousands of visitors, the scale of work is astonishing.
I'm here on a school field trip. It's so cool, and the sculptors must have put in so much care. It looks like it would have taken a long time to make.
So we're on a cruise, so we're here in Busan for the day. We wanted to come and visit the beach.
They're cool, I like them.
Yeah. The biggest one is their favorite.
We came to have lunch nearby and heard about the Sand Festival, so we stopped by. I saw the Train to Busan piece, and it's much more detailed than I expected. You can even recognize the actors, which was really fun.
The festival offers more than just sightseeing. Thrill seekers can hit the dunes for sandboarding, while families can engage in water gun battles or learn the secrets of sand sculpting themselves. The main festivities and interactive programs run through May 18th. However, the 17 masterpieces will remain on display for the public to enjoy until June 14th. 정혜림, 아리랑 뉴스, 부산.
Across the western parts of the country today, it has already begun to feel like summer. And starting tomorrow, that heat will spread nationwide, with most areas seeing daytime highs above 30 degrees Celsius through Sunday. Clear skies tomorrow will bring strong sunshine throughout the day. That means UV levels will be very high nationwide during the daytime. Ozone concentrations are also expected to be very bad in the southern Gyeonggi-do province, and most of the other areas will also see bad levels. So it's best to limit outdoor activities. As for temperatures, Seoul will start the day at 18 degrees, Daejeon at 15 degrees, Busan at 14 degrees. Then by the afternoon, Seoul will get up to 31 degrees, Chuncheon and Daejeon 31 degrees, and Daegu up to even 33 degrees. The early season heat should start to ease by Wednesday next week as rain moves in. Now here's a look at the weather around the world.
That is all we have for tonight. I'm Kim Dami. From all of us here at Arirang, thanks for watching and good night.